All right. So today I want to be discussing about the phases of the moon, right? And the phases of the moon is greatly misunderstood, especially in this part of the world, because from Facebook, where I saw the pattern in which people carry out moon rituals, is the reason why I decided to speak on this topic. I spoke on it on Instagram, but because Instagram doesn't allow for lengthy videos, I wasn't able really to do justice to the topic. So I said I'm going to move it here, do a fresh video on it. So this is what I'm doing. So the phases of the moon, whether for those conducting a ritual or for those who just want to understand how the mechanics of the moon works and its relation to the planet, because we have to keep in mind that the moon, hmm, science even says this, the moon controls the tides of our oceans and our seas. And if you consider the sign of oceans and seas, which is Pisces, which is ruled by Neptune and Jupiter, which is the subconscious mind, and you find that the moon isn't just your emotion, isn't just empathy, isn't just instinct, isn't just your mother. That is the planetary symbolism of your mom, the astrological planetary symbolism of your mom, your nurturing parent. So in some cases, your dad, because in a family where your dad is the nurturing parent, your fourth house, which is ruled by the moon and Cancer, is going to describe that very parent. You understand what I'm saying? So when you consider that the moon isn't just these things, it also has a great influence on your subconscious mind. Then we also need to ask ourselves question: oh, the phases of the moon, affects our life in the way that it comes, and this influence isn't to be downplayed. No, this influence is not supposed to be downplayed, because the phases of the moon don't just talk about the different phases of how we express or feel emotion. It also takes us through the very process of the phases of life. People often get carried away like, oh, my life isn't going well and all that stuff, and you don't know that what you're going through is just a phase. But you easily give up because you don't understand how life works. The scientists say that life is a sine wave. So there are ups and then there are downs. There are ups and then there are downs. You don't always have it on a straight line. It doesn't go on a straight line. Please, it doesn't. Life doesn't go on a straight line. You're mistaken if you think that way. So, I guess my blue marker didn't want me to do this particular stuff with it. So, I'm going to use my red. Some people will have sentiments as regards to, oh, I'm using red. Red is this, red is danger, and other stuff. Alright, so this is the phases of the moon. The moon takes us through the realities of the cosmos that we are in. It is our mother, our cosmic mother, the divine mother that reveals to us the nature of the universe as she interacts with the very center, the very sun, the very star that is in the center of our galaxy, which is our sun. You understand? So the sun is masculine, the moon is feminine. Although in some ancient cultures, the sun is said to be feminine. I mean, if you look at it though, the sun even rules Cancer, which the moon rules. The sun rules both Cancer. In classical astrology, the sun rules both Cancer and Leo. So Cancer is the feminine domicile of the moon, of the sun, while Leo is the masculine domicile of the sun. But the moon also rules Cancer. They even argue that the moon does not rule any sign because it moves too fast. So the moon stays in a sign for approximately 11 to 15 degrees per sign in a day. A sign is 30 degrees. If the moon moves 15 degrees in one day in the sign, it moves that is 2 days. It is completely out of one sign, and the only time the moon moves that fast, it's when it's closer to the sun. So we are looking at periods of the waning crescent phase and then the new moon phase. These are the two phases where the moon is usually very fast because it is closer to the sun. Now, what do I mean by waning crescent and winning crescent and I don't know how my markers are misbehaving because I leave them open for too long and then okay, yes, I guess so. I leave them open for too long. So yeah, correction taken. Let me do justice to this, right? Before the marker goes off. Don't mind my circle. It doesn't necessarily have to be, it doesn't necessarily have to be equal. But the phases of the moon here I'm talking about here is 8 phases of the moon. The moon has 8 phases, and these 8 phases is important that we know them, especially for my people that are into new moon rituals, because they do it wrongly. They have an habit of doing a new moon and then they just relax and expect something to happen. No, that is wrong mindset. And some people just leave the new moon and be like, I didn't do the new moon, I'll do the full moon. That's a wrong approach. You don't do the new moon ritual like that. Anyway, you're watching me from this and you're doing that stuff, you're not doing the correct, you're not doing the moon ritual correctly, because you have to understand the symbolisms of these things. So I'm going to write out the full, the zodiacal order. So you see why I say the moon phases derive their symbolism from the order of the zodiac, right? So the new moon is the planting phase. In the ancient times where agriculture was like the order of the day, man was planting, especially when man was so engrossed in agriculture, building homes, building communities, that is providing shelter for themselves, rearing livestock. That was in the age of Taurus, before the age of Aries, which we left, and then the age of Pisces, which we just currently left, which we've really not done, really not left. But that is a question for another day. You understand? Because the vernal point is still in Pisces. So man's consciousness is still rooted, is still in Pisces, but we are gradually coming out of it because it's shifting. It's shifting until it moves into Aquarius completely. Then the whole entire consciousness of the planet, we are going to see bursts of the air. They are going to be evolving so much. A lot of things is going to be changing. Technology, AI is the age of Aquarius. You understand what I'm saying? That is the age we are moving into. AI, robotics, technology, GMOs, genetically modified stuff. Even now that Pluto is in Aquarius too, is still pointing to the same thing. You see. So, but let me keep the topic, on the new moon. Now there are 8 phases of the moon. Now, which phases of the moon are these? The first phase of the moon is the new moon phase. The second phase of the moon is the waxing crescent phase. The third phase of the moon is the first quarter. The fourth phase of the moon is the waxing gibbous. The fifth phase of the moon is the full moon. The sixth phase of the moon is the waning gibbous. The seventh phase of the moon is the third quarter or the last quarter. And the eighth phase of the moon is the waning crescent. This is when the moon goes into void. Don't mind my middle finger. That's not what I actually mean. This when the moon goes void, you see. So, the new moon phase, each phase of the moon, there are 8 phases of the moon. So each phase of the moon is exactly 45 degrees from the sun. It's multiples of 45 degrees from the sun. Because you have to understand, as the sun is moving, the moon is moving. So the geometry does not change. It remains the same. If the moon moves, if the sun moves 1 degree, when the moon has moved about 11 or 15 degrees. If when the sun moves another, because the sun moves 1 degree per day, the moon needs to still be at exactly 45 degrees to complete the first phase of the moon, which is the full moon phase. So the first full moon phase is 45 degrees, but the symbolism that is derived does not change. Now, what do I mean? The first phase of the moon is symbolized by new beginnings, which is Aries. So because it's 45 degrees, a sign is 30 degrees. Now, what that means is the first 30 degree of the first sign and the first 15 degree of the second sign. Is that not 45 degrees? That's 45 degrees. So the first 15 degrees of Taurus, right? And the 30 degrees of Aries is symbolic of the first phase of new moon. This is 45 degrees. Are you following? This is, in agricultural terms, this is when the seed goes into the ground. So when it's a new moon phase, you usually don't see the moon. Because this is the same symbolism as when you till the ground and you put the seed that you're planting, you put the seeds, not one, many seeds that you're planting into the ground. So for those that conduct the ritual, this is when you sow the seed of your intention into the universe when you're conducting the ritual. You sow the seed of your intention here in the new moon phase. This is the planting period. There's an harvest period. You don't plant and say that is all, and then you don't go ahead to harvest. That's how your moon rituals are not working. And then you don't leave the planting season and want to harvest. What did you keep that you want to harvest? That is how your moon rituals are not working. You're not following it the way it's supposed to be. We all keep saying, oh, we want to go back to learn the ways of our ancestors. Let's not go back. There's nothing to go back to. Let's just get that one straight. We're not going back to the ways of our ancestors. We are going to learn, not back. We are just going to learn from them and then sit down and analyze all of the things they did and take out the ones that need to change, or change the ones and set, basically just picking, sniffing through all of the details and picking out the ones that we need to change. This is the age of Aquarius. This is the age of change, drastic change. It's the year of upgrade. It's the age of upgrade. Aquarius is upgrade. Unlike when Scorpio talks about change, but Scorpio kind of change is a transformational kind of change where death and rebirth it's a painful process. More like the phoenix dying and being regenerated again. You understand? More like the eagle going, up into the mountains and then peeling off his feathers and smashing his beak against a rock and then waits for itself to regenerate and it comes out again into the sky. The eagle is a Scorpio bird. The phoenix is a Scorpio bird. You see how they carry those traces of regeneration. It's a painful process. You see? But Aquarius kind of change is upgrade, improvement, refinement. Oh, your app is updated, you upgraded. That is Aquarius. It is technology. Your phones, the internet, electricity is technology. This thing is outdated, you upgrade it. Oh, this app is outdated, it has bugs. They update it. They fix the bugs, they update it. There are different kinds of change, so we need to upgrade these systems. We are not going back to reuse them. We are going back now to analyze and see that this one isn't working. Let's do something about it. Let's refine it. You can also transform it because Aquarius also is at an angle. When you consider Aquarius is also at an angle with Scorpio, you also see why we also need to transform these things. But I know that is topic for another day based on how the age works. You see, this is something I'm going to talk about another day. So the first phase of the moon is 45 degrees. Now, the second phase, this is the new moon phase. Are you following me now? This is the new moon phase. Then the second phase of the moon, we've taken the first 15 degrees. You understand? This is the planting phase. You've planted, right? And the second phase of the moon, this is the waxing crescent. Are you guys following? This is the second phase of the moon. This particular phase is exactly 90 degrees away from the sun. The phase of the moon starts, this derives symbolism from 0 degrees of Aries. Then this is the second phase. This is the nurturing phase. This is the period when the roots of the seed you've planted. This is the first sprouting. This is the first light of the moon. It's symbolic to the first light of the moon, which is symbolic to when the plant, your seed germinates. It has germinated and it's now pushed itself out of the soil. So it has come out of the darkness of the soil and it's now out into the light. That is the first light. That is the waxing crescent that you see. When the sun is at 90 degrees, from 45 degrees to 90 degrees. You understand? The first phase of the moon is 0 degrees to 45 degrees. Don't get me wrong. But each of them are 45 degrees apart. Multiples of 45 degrees apart from the sun. So altogether makes it exactly 8 phases of the moon. So this is 90 degrees away from the moon. That is the second phase. This is the first sprouting. This is also when the roots, the crops takes, goes into the soil, begins to gain foundation, begins to gain roots. You understand? This is when it goes into the soil. This is also the nurturing phase. Some of them might germinate, but they came out of the ground. So let's say, for example, you plant a grain, or let's say beans, for example. You notice how some of them, so you have to gather up the soil and make sure that the root is firm in the ground. That is the nurturing aspect of this phase. Then the next phase here of the moon. The next phase of the moon, this is 30 degrees of Cancer to 15 degrees of Leo. This is 135 degrees. 90 degrees to 135 degrees. This is the third phase of the moon. It's exactly from 90 degrees, where this one stops, to 135 degrees is the entire phase of the third phase of the moon, which is the first quarter. This is when the moonlight is halfway. It's halfway lit and then halfway dark. This is the phase. That phase you see. This is that phase. And because at this point now, it is now farther from the sun. It is no longer as fast as how it used to move when it was from 0 degrees to 90 degrees. It is no longer as fast as that. You understand what I'm saying? Then at this phase, the speed begins to slow down. So it doesn't move up to 15 degrees per day. It has now cut down to 12 degrees, 11 degrees. So it can stay in the sign for 2 days plus at this very phase. Now it's going towards the opposition. When it's at opposition, it is very slow. And the opposition is the first 15 degrees. The last is the last 15 degrees. The second, actually not last, the second 15 degrees of Leo to the full 30 degrees of, what is it called? This is the waxing gibbous phase. This is 180 degrees, from 135 to 180 degrees. This is the waxing gibbous phase. To 30 degrees, 15 degrees of Leo, to 30 degrees of Aquarius. This is, don't worry about this stuff really if you're confused. This is just to tell you how they derive their symbolism. Now at this phase here, this 135 degrees is also a nurturing phase. You understand me? But mainly what this phase is the survival of the fittest phase. But it's still a nurturing phase regardless. You still have to go and be checking up on the plants. You understand? If you're doing a ritual now, these two phases are nurturing phases. These are places where your ritual is supposed to give you the instruction on what to abstain from, so that you don't tamper with the energy flow. So that you don't tamper with the energy flow of the germination process of this intention, this seed of intention you have sown into the universe. I'm not teaching the ritual aspect here. I'm just breaking down the phase of the moon. There are people who can teach you that. I don't think I have the luxury of time to do justice to that particular topic, but just to touch on it a little bit. Then we get to this point. This point, the waxing gibbous phase, agriculturally, this is the point where you weed. You make sure there's no weed, there's no grass competing with nutrients, competing in gaining nutrients with the particular seed you've sown that has now grown into a plant. You need it to grow, to get all the nutrients here. So you take out all of the weed. The pruning stage, the weeding stage, this is it. This is the waxing gibbous. Then this is from 135 degrees to 180 degrees. Then from 180 degrees, 0 degrees of Libra, begins exactly at an opposition from the new moon phase. This is the harvest phase. 30 degrees to 15 degrees of Scorpio. 30 degrees of Libra to 15 degrees of Scorpio. Now this whole point takes 225 degrees. But don't get it twisted. The main opposition is 180 degrees. So it is where the 180 degrees of this particular waxing gibbous phase stop that the full moon phase starts. Don't get it twisted. That is where it starts. They are not separate, they are together. You understand me? They are all together. So this phase is your harvest phase. For those that do the new moon ritual, when you do your new moon ritual here, You're supposed to do a follow-up ritual. You do all of this process. Even if I thought you just want to simplify it, let's leave all this plenty information say, and you don't want to bore yourself, you don't want to stress yourself. Let's just say you don't want to stress yourself. When you do the new moon phase, then you do the full moon phase. You do the full moon phase. If you follow me on Facebook, I will drop my link in the description to all my social media handles. You should follow me on Facebook. I post when there's a new moon and when there's a full moon, the dates for these things. I post them so that people see and follow up on these things. I post them in case you don't know. You can just browse them online. But I like to, do the calculation based on the Nigerian, where we are on the planet, because this is how astrology works. I have to consider where I am on the planet so I can make the calculations. You understand what I'm saying? So I can make the calculations. So, on Nigerian time, this is the full moon. This is our time where the full moon is going to reach the full moon. Exact 180 degrees to the minute of arc. Exact degree. Exact degree, exact minute. That is the beginning of the full moon phase. That is the beginning of the full moon phase. That peak period, that is the full moon. I give you that exact time. I post about it. I will post my Facebook link in the description there, my page and my personal account. You can follow both. Okay, so this is the harvest phase. You don't do your new moon ritual and then you rest. You don't sow a seed and then you rest. Who is going to harvest it? Is it the forest spirit? The forest spirits won't do that kind of job for you. Don't mind me. The forest spirit won't do that kind of job for you, okay? You don't sow a seed and then you go and relax. Don't do that. When you sow that seed, then you harvest. This is when you do a follow-up ritual. Now, the seed of intention you've sown into the universe has now become a full-blown plant. It has now developed, it has now brought forth crops. Now, fruits, then you can now harvest it. This is when you do the follow-up ritual to pull down that energy from the cosmos. This is an ancient practice. I'm not teaching you voodoo here. This is an ancient practice. Anything that you do in the new moon as a ritual, that is not the end all. That is not the end of it. That is not the end all and be all of it. That's what I wanted to say. You come to the full moon phase and you harvest that thing. You pull it down back to you. Then this phase here, 180 degrees to 225 degrees. This is how it works. Then this remaining phase here, this is the second 15 degrees of Scorpio to the full first 30 degrees of Sagittarius. You understand? This is 270 degrees away from the sun. This phase of the moon is called the waning gibbous phase. This is when you go out and you share. This is when you go out. Oh, my harvest has produced so much. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Come and share with me. You let people know that, the universe has blessed you. They should therefore celebrate with you, because this is how it's supposed to be done. If not just because we fell into the age of Pisces and we started having a lot of spiritual, because Pisces is spirits. In case people don't know, the realm was opened up to a lot of spirits to enter, because that was their age. The realm was opened up to a whole lot of spirits. So ignorance was permeating the realm. Low vibrational spirits, all of them were entering the realm. The realm was not secure. It was not the age of spirits. Pisces is spirit. Any kind of spirit, though, whether it's methylated spirits used to disinfect stuff, is Pisces, because disinfector, yes, Pisces. Pisces is a sign of the dissolving of forms, which is ruled by Neptune. The dissolving of forms. You see, it is also flawed, though. Those wanting to know why the flood in this happened, we're still in the Neptune and Saturn conjunction in Aries. When the planet of destruction meets with the planet of tsunamis and flood, which is Neptune. That's the result that you saw over there. There was another flood again that happened somewhere in Nigeria, I think in Yola. You see, that energy. And you also consider the fact that we are still in the Saturn and Jupiter conjunction cycle. I think I'll talk about that in a different video. Jupiter currently squares Saturn I don't know if people are thinking or seeing these things. It's currently square Saturn. So that aspect too still points to the flooding. People say it's on an underground earthquake that causes a tsunami. Well, that is Saturn. Saturn is a planet of instabilities. And it's an Earth planet too, even though it rules Aquarius too. But it is still a planet of instabilities. Destruction too. So when the Earth begins to shake, you have to look for where Saturn is. Whichever country is affected, you have to pull up the chart of that country and see. If you do your calculation well, those that know how to do reparative astrology can pull up the chart. I'm working on that aspect of the astrology. But let me not bore you guys with the details. But yes, these things are explained by cosmic phenomena. Nothing is a mistake. It's all written in the sky. Everybody keeps looking for a scroll, that is being preserved, that preserves an ancient secret. The ancient secret you're looking for is in the sky. You've refused to look at the sky. In the age of Aquarius, which is astrology and astronomy, you have to learn how to tap into this stuff. So you're able to discern the age and know where you're going to, and know where mankind is going to. So this phase is 2022 and 70. This is when you go out, This is the planet of generosity. This is also the sign. This is the sign of generosity. This is the sign of sharing. So you share. Let people come and share. You give out. This is generosity. People who are, people whom you want to celebrate with. Oh, the universe has blessed me with huge harvest this farming season. Come and enjoy with me. This is what that phase of the moon is. This is called the waning gibbous. Now the moon, after the full moon, the next phase of the moon is the waning phase. The entire phase of that moon is the waning phase. There's the new moon, then there's a waxing phase. Then it hits the full moon. Then after the full moon phase, the waning phases begin. And the waning phases are 3 phases. You understand? The waning phases are 3 phases, just like the waxing phases are 3 phases too. After the new moon comes the first waxing phase, which is the waxing crescent, then the first quarter. Then the waxing gibbous. So here now we are looking at this other phase of the moon, which is 315 degrees away. When the moon is 350 degrees away from the sun. Because the full cycle, the full 8th phase of the moon completes. If you add it, 45 degrees times 8 phases of the moon, you get 360. So it's a complete circle. It's a complete circle, you understand? So, so this phase, 315 degrees from the sun, we see the symbolism here is derived from Saturn. This is when you begin to do more like a self-reflection kind of. This is when you begin to go into the process of calculating, what to keep, what to plant, what to eat, what to plant, what to keep aside. Let's say visitor come or friends come, you want to keep it aside for them for gift, or you want to package some tubers of yam, for example. Let's say it's yam you want to send to your product. This is the period where you begin to do that. This is 315 phase of the moon. This is the 3rd quarter or the last quarter phase of the moon. This is what this phase is. You understand me? Then the last phase of the moon is exactly 360 degrees. It's exactly 360 degrees. Are you following? So I want to take out this stuff so that you guys see, that there are 8 phases here of the moon, right? You see, so this phase of the moon, it carries the symbolism of Pisces because it runs into the 12th place of the zodiac. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Are you guys seeing now? You have 8 phases of the moon, all deriving their symbolisms from the zodiac. You see, so when that period of the year where there's a new moon in Aries, this is when our new year begins. But the white men, the Igbo people, they brought their own system and said it's when the sun is in Capricorn in January, when the Harmattan season starts, because Capricorn is cold. So when the sun is in Capricorn, the weather changes. That is the beginning of the Harmattan season here in Nigeria, which is just the beginning of it because it's a cardinal sign. Then it goes into Aquarius. Aquarius is far more cold. The period when the sun is in Aquarius is far more cold than when the sun is in Capricorn. So if you look at the fact that Capricorn and Aquarius both points to technology, so Capricorn will be your fridge, Aquarius is your freezer. I don't know if you're following me. That kind of stuff. You see, so this last phase of the moon, this is when, you start to make preparations for the next phase of the moon. This is when you rest, sleep. Spices, you rest, so that you can rejuvenate your energy. Pisces is sleep. Pisces is also the lymphatic system. Your lymphatic system works better when you are asleep. In case doctors do not tell you, I'll tell you. That's the astrology of it. Pisces is your lymphatic system. Pisces is sleep, is dreams. If you sleep, your lymphatic system will function very well. There are certain times you sleep with certain body pains, and when you sleep, you wake up, you are feeling better. Your lymphatic system has gone to work. You understand? So, this is the phase of the moon.